Hello and welcome to Health 247 on Rapid Television, where we bring you timely and reliable information on important health issues affecting our everyday lives. Today, we take a closer look at the National Tobacco Control Act Amendment Bill 2025, currently being considered for legislative amendments amid evolving changes in Nigeria's tobacco and nicotine markets. I am Josephine Bitrus. Thank you for joining us. Tobacco remains one of the leading preventable causes of disease and death globally, while growing availability of cigarettes and emerging nicotine products continues to raise serious public health concerns. In Nigeria, attention is now focused on the National Tobacco Control Act Amendment Bill 2025, with stakeholders divided over what the proposed changes could mean for tobacco regulation and public health. As lawmakers consider amendments to the existing framework, public health advocates are calling for stronger measures to protect Nigerians, particularly children and young people, from the harmful effects of tobacco and nicotine products. What do the proposed amendments mean for public health, tobacco control, and the protection of Nigerians, particularly young people? For many Nigerians, tobacco use may appear to be a personal choice, but behind every cigarette, vape, or other nicotine product is a wider public health concern. Tobacco use is linked to serious illnesses, including cancer, heart disease, stroke, and respiratory diseases. Nigeria enacted the National Tobacco Control Act in 2015, providing a legal framework for regulating tobacco products and protecting the public from the harmful effects of tobacco. A decade later, lawmakers are considering amendments to the legislation amid changes in the tobacco and nicotine markets. The proposed amendment comes at a time when traditional cigarettes are no longer the only concern. Electronic cigarettes, vaping devices, and other emerging nicotine products are becoming increasingly visible, raising questions about how effectively existing laws can address them. For health advocates, the challenge is to ensure that regulatory changes do not create loopholes that could expose more Nigerians, especially young people, to nicotine addiction. Civil society organizations have expressed concern over proposed changes they believe could weaken existing safeguards. They are urging lawmakers to carefully examine the provisions of the bill and ensure that public health remains the priority. They also want stronger enforcement of restrictions on tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship. But beyond the legislative debate is a question that affects every Nigerian.
Nigeria must reject the amendment in its current form because it's obvious that the current amendment that is being pushed by the National Assembly and has been sent to the President for assent is against the interest of the people. Many of the provisions in that document, I don't think it's even fit to be called a bill, in that particular piece of paper is such that would render Nigerians' health subject to the profit and the commercial interests of the tobacco and nicotine industry. There are a number of clauses in that document that suggests that the health of Nigerians, particularly the health of young people, are not important considerations in the development of that particular document. And I would be able to give you some of the examples as we proceed in this conversation.
Nigerians should be most concerned about proposed changes that could weaken restrictions on tobacco advertising, promotion, sponsorship, packaging, sales, and exposure to tobacco products.
See, the most outrageous of the provisions of that document is the separate treatment that has been suggested to be given to vapes, heated tobacco products, non-combustible tobacco and nicotine products, compared to the traditional tobacco products like cigarettes, cigars, cigarillos, and the rest of them. The problem with that particular provision, or the set of provisions rather, is that it assumes that vapes and the like products are safe products. And that cannot be further from the truth. The reality on ground, the reality that we have seen all over the world, is that nicotine products in whatever form is not only addictive but also dangerous to health. The countries where many of these tobacco and nicotine companies operate from, where they are based, those countries are putting stringent regulations banning those products in their countries because they have seen the damage it has done to the young people. Why are we very particular about vapes, and we're asking that vapes and other nicotine products must be treated like the traditional tobacco products? It's very simple. It's because we know that the industry is only pushing those products as safer alternatives, not as safe alternatives, because the reality on the ground is that there is no level of nicotine consumption or tobacco consumption that is safe for anybody. It's like saying that there is a poison that will kill you in the next 30 minutes, but instead of taking that one, come and take a poison that will kill you in the next 2 hours. Either way, the person who uses the product will die eventually. And that is the hallmark of the tobacco and nicotine industry. It is products, they are selling products that will ultimately kill their consumers. Now, why are we very, very concerned and we are saying that vapes must be regulated very, very strictly? It's because though it is being touted as a product that would help smokers to quit smoking, we have seen that one, the marketing of vapes and nicotine products are not targeted at only the smokers that are trying to quit. They are targeting these products at our young people. They are targeting these products at students who are undergraduates, who are in secondary schools. And it will shock you to know that even students, pupils in primary schools are taking up this deadly habit. The second reason we must regulate vapes very, very strictly, not in the manner that is being suggested by this very disappointing document. The reason we must regulate it very strictly is that you will see that the people who actually use those products are not only the people who are trying to quit. As a matter of fact, the people who are trying to quit smoking do not even buy those products. What usually happens is that the people who have never smoked before in their lives, who have never used tobacco products, are the ones who take up these products because they are being presented as lifestyle products, as if they are chic, as if they are good, as if they are things that makes you look like you are aware of what is going on in the society. Another essence of people who are marketing these products is that they are also targeting people who are not interested yet and who have never used a tobacco product. The people who they say they are targeting, as far as quitting smoking is concerned, they don't transition from traditional tobacco products to vapes and then out of nicotine. What actually happens is that for those that were even smoking before, it now becomes dual use. They use vapes and then they smoke, and then they use cigarettes at the same time. And then the people who have never had any intention of using cigarettes or cigars are the ones who then start using these nicotine products. What that means in essence is that they are introducing nicotine into the lifestyle of young people who ordinarily would not have started smoking in the first place. And you know the funny thing about addiction is that when you take a particular dose that gives you a level of highness, a level of elation that makes you that gives a psychotic effect, what happens is that by the time you take, let's say, 1 centimeter or 1 liter of that product, and then it gets you high, the next time you want to attain that level of highness, 1 dose will not be enough again. You will need to take something a bit higher, and that is how addiction gets worse. So what the nicotine industry and tobacco industry are doing invariably, unfortunately, the National Assembly have allowed themselves to become a tool that the industry can use. What the nicotine and tobacco industry is doing is they are using supposedly smaller doses of nicotine to lure people into a bigger level of addiction. And we all know that the most addictive component in tobacco products, in cigarettes, is the nicotine. So what they have done is say, look, come and get addicted. Ultimately, you will still come back to buy cigarettes. And that is one thing that we must stand against if we are interested in protecting the health of Nigerians, particularly of young people.
If tobacco control measures are weakened, Nigeria could face more tobacco-related illnesses and premature deaths, including cancer, heart disease, and respiratory diseases. This will increase pressure on the health system, reduce productivity, strain families financially, and impose significant economic costs through medical expenses and loss of income.
The first health consequence is that people will fall sick more often. Right now, cancer has become, pardon me, let me say it in pidgin, now water. Everywhere you turn, I don't think there is any Nigerian living in Nigeria that has not had to contribute in one way or another for cancer treatment. If your family member has never have never become a victim of cancer, you know somebody in your community, somebody in your village, somebody must have called you at some point to say, so person is undergoing cancer treatment, we need contribution. The second thing that causes then is that we know that our health system in its current format, in the way it is currently designed, cannot bear the burden of even the existing diseases, how much more an increase in those diseases. You know, it is better for us to prevent cancer than for us to begin to look for how to treat cancer. And cancer is just one of the things that tobacco and nicotine products will cause. Another thing that would happen, particularly for those that are using shisha, is when they are sharing that mouthpiece, there is a disease that can be transmitted from the exchange of the pardon my English, the exchange of DNA. You know, because one person might have a particular oral sickness, oral disease, and then it passes it on to the next person, and then it goes on and on like that, and then you pass it all around. There's herpes and all the likes of them, hepatitis and the rest. Another disease that can be caused, that has been proven to be caused by nicotine use, particularly vaping in advanced climes, is that the mental capacity of young people that use vape products decline sporadically, so rapidly that it's a cause of concern. We are struggling, we are underdeveloped as a nation, and we must put it the way it is. Our level of development, educationally speaking, infrastructurally, is nothing to write home about. The only thing that Nigerians have to show to compete in the global community is our intellect. Now the industry is coming with a product that will ultimately dumb people down, that will make people find reasoning even much more difficult. Right now, we are battling with the problems of what is called the AI brain, where people can no longer think on their own and will always have to depend on AI. But even that, as bad as that may seem, is something that can be reversed. But when you start using vape products and you start using all these nicotine products, your ability to reason becomes rapidly even diminished. And then these same products are now being sold to children, are being sold to young people who are still in the developmental stage of their intellect. And so what we then have ultimately is that we will have a nation that cannot compete economically, we cannot compete infrastructurally, we cannot compete in any other way. And the only thing that we have going for us is also being attacked, and then we will not be able to compete also intellectually. And that, my fellow Nigerians, is one of the biggest problems that we must, one of the biggest reasons why we must face this issue, this attempt to weaken Nigeria's tobacco control law. Another problem that this bill, if passed, would create for us is a lifestyle of addiction. We are currently battling with the problem of addiction to illicit drugs, and we already know that tobacco, cigarettes, cigarillos, and the likes are the gateway to addiction to all of these other drugs. Like I said earlier about the problem of addiction, is that when you use a little bit of those and it gives you some elation, some highness, you then begin to look for more, and you begin to look for more, and that is how people migrate from tobacco to marijuana to cocaine and the rest of them. Now we are saying, because we have been able to a very large extent block that channel between tobacco and the illicit drugs, and it's appearing as if we are beginning to be in charge of that particular space to help our young people not to get addicted. The industry is now coming to introduce nicotine, which is a lesser dose of addiction that then gets our people on that same journey, that trajectory that we are beginning to reverse gradually. So we must fight this bill with everything that we can, legally, morally, ethically. There is nothing that is right about this bill, and we are calling on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to withhold assent to this bill, because it is not good for the health and the safety of Nigerians. Beyond the fact that it is not even good for the health, it does not align with the renewed up agenda of Mr. President. One of the things that included in the manifesto of the president when he was coming into office in 2023, I took the time to study that manifesto, is tobacco control. He's saying that it would help Nigerians to beat the addiction. And then if you allow this document to become law in this country, then what that means is that the president has departed from the promise that he made to Nigerians, upon which Nigerians voted him to become president.
It is extremely important to protect the National Tobacco Control Act from industry influence, because public health policies should be based on evidence and the protection of lives, not commercial interests.
The law is already very clear. As a matter of fact, let me start from the global perspective. The World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which, by the way, was the first public health treaty negotiated under the auspices of the World Health Organization, contains Article 5.3. Article 5.3 is very explicit. It says that the industry shall not be involved in negotiation, implementation, and what have you of public health policies and laws. What that means in essence is that the whole world came together and they recognized the fact that the interest of the industry and the interest of public health can never align. They are two parallel lines. Because as long as you pass effective tobacco control laws, effective nicotine control laws, what it means is that you are stopping people from consuming these deadly products. And then the industry that manufactures and sells these deadly products will begin to lose customers. When they lose customers, it means they will not make money. So there is no way that industry who is going to lose money from when people are healthy will then say, come, let us pass laws that will make people more healthy. It just does not make any sense. Commercially, it does not make sense for them to do so. So anytime the industry gets involved in the creation or implementation or even awareness creation around public health, particularly the tobacco industry, we know for sure that it is to undermine that system. And so we cannot allow the industry to set the standard for us on how we will implement public health or the kind of policies that we will have for public health in Nigeria. And it is very obvious that this document that has been passed by the National Assembly and has been sent to the President for assent has the fingerprints of the industry. It is very clear for anybody that understands and follows the trend of the industry on Africa to see that this is the language of the industry. One other thing that even makes it very clear that this is the language of the industry and it's the fingerprints of the industry, like they say in certain circles, it is the voice of Esau, but the hands of Jacob. We know that though it may be the voice of the industry, it may be the voice rather. We may be hearing the voice of the National Assembly, but from all that we are seeing, it is the language of the industry. In 2024 November, the National Assembly convened what is called a public hearing. And we participated. Civil society in Nigeria participated. Of course, the industry was also there. All stakeholders from health, commerce, and the rest were all in the meeting. And they presented to us two documents, two bills, Bill HB 47 and HB 1151. Those two bills, as developed by Honorable Pascal Agwodike and three other honorables in Parliament, those bills had nothing to do with emerging tobacco products. As a matter of fact, if you take your time to look at HB 47, HB 47 attempts to clean up the National Tobacco Control Act 2015. We had a few, issues that we felt like could be made stronger. But if HB 47 in its current form had been passed the way it was proposed, we would not be here talking about the weakening of the law. But miraculously, those two documents that were 4 pages, miraculously, after 2 years, almost 2 years of delays and what have you in the National Assembly, suddenly became a 31-page document, out of which the clauses in those original 4 pages were limited to less than 2 pages in the entire 31-page document. It means that we now have over 29 pages of industry material inserted into Nigeria's law. The question we need to ask ourselves, and we need to ask the National Assembly, is who reviewed those documents? Who approved for those clauses to be inserted? Who was consulted? Public health practitioners, public health advocates were not consulted in the insertion of those very terrible clauses into the bill. How did we arrive at such a disaster of a bill? We cannot, as a nation, be dealing with fake agencies and be dealing with fake laws at the same time. And so we must stand against this particular document and ensure that it does not become law in Nigeria.
The National Assembly should remain committed to protecting and strengthening Nigeria's tobacco control laws in the interest of public health while resisting any changes that could weaken existing safeguards. Nigerians, on their part, should support strong tobacco control measures.
Nigerians must be watchful. It is clear that certain aspects of our governance has been captured by people with only commercial interests who have no interest, who have no desire to help Nigerians. And we cannot allow our country to become a disgrace, a thing of mockery in the Committee of Nations. So what we must do is be watchful. We must lend our voices to the things that are not favorable to us as a people. We cannot and we must not leave the public health, the health of our people, to the whims and caprices of people who just want to make money at all costs and by all means. We must be on the lookout. Any document that comes out of the National Assembly or any agency that purports to try to regulate and protect public health, we must scrutinize it. We must look at it, very thoroughly and ensure that truly it protects the health of the people. Because at the end of the day, if people fall sick because of those products, the government has shown repeatedly that they lack the capacity to provide the adequate health care and treatment for the people. So at the end of the day, some people make the money, some people bear the burden of treating those diseases. Families have been sent into abject poverty simply because somebody fell sick and there was no treatment for it. Why must we then allow profit, people who want to make profit and racketeers, in whatever guise or appearance, to then make money out of the sickness of our people? We must stand firm, lend our voices, speak within the platforms that you have, make a call to your senators, call your honorables. The bill in its current position can be recalled, and we are calling on the National Assembly also to recall that bill and subject that bill to proper public health scrutiny, and then we will get engaged in that process. We will invite and urge all CSOs, all public health advocates, all public health professionals to get involved in this matter so that we can protect the health of our people.
As the National Tobacco Control Act Amendment Bill 2025 continues to attract attention, stakeholders are asking lawmakers to listen to public health experts, civil society organizations, and affected communities. For them, the debate is bigger than tobacco. It is about protecting the health of present and future generations of Nigerians. Whether the proposed amendments will strengthen Nigeria's tobacco control framework or raise new concerns will depend on the final provisions adopted by lawmakers. But one message remains central to public health advocates. A tobacco control law should protect lives, prevent addiction, and keep the health of Nigerians at its heart. The debate over the National Tobacco Control Act Amendment Bill 2025 is expected to continue as stakeholders engage lawmakers on the proposed changes and their possible impact on public health. Thank you for watching Health 247 on Rapid Television. Join us again next week for another informative edition. Until then, eat well, stay informed, and stay healthy. I am Josephine Bitrus.